Eula is a Cryo Claymore damage carry who functions as one of, if not the, premier physical DPS in the game. Unlike most of the other physical damage carries available in the game at the time of this video, Eula relies on enormous amounts of burst damage to defeat enemies, rather than the consistent damage that you may see with other characters. Her attacks feel fluid for a Claymore user, with the aim of generating as many hits on an enemy as possible in order to generate stacks for her ultimate, Glacial Illumination. A floating sword which does significantly more damage the more stacks Eula possesses when it explodes. Eula's playstyle rewards good mechanical play, with tight timing windows to maximize her damage output. She is a character whose damage output suffers more than most if played incorrectly or if timings are missed. But this does not mean that she is weak. She just requires some thought and skill to achieve the most from her kit. Her basic rotation for maximum damage output is not particularly hard, so if you're looking for a slightly more challenging character to tackle Tave out with, then she may be the character that you're looking for. Let's look at some pros and cons. Pros. Eula has insane physical burst potential. She's also a Claymore user. Claymore users are good against Geoshields, and they can also Dragon Strike. She has excellent kit synergy between her E and her Q. She has one of the highest base attacks in the entire game. She has a critical damage ascension passive. She's also Hot Tango Mama, by which I mean she has a nice aesthetic. Let's look at some downsides. Eula is technically a more challenging character than some other characters, although this might be a positive for you. She's also a Claymore user, and generally speaking, Cryo and Claymore users don't go well together due to the shatter mechanic. Some people also just don't like the Claymore playstyle. She's not as forgiving as other damage characters, because when she's played incorrectly, she ends up losing a lot more damage output than others will. She's also not a very flexible unit, like Bennett or Zhongli or even Ganyu. Eula isn't the hardest character to gear. According to the masterminds over at Eula Main's Discord, 4-piece Pale Flame gives Eula the highest damage output. This is provided you're able to maintain the 4-piece bonus from the set. Otherwise, if you're prone to making mistakes or don't want to worry about maintaining stacks, you may choose to run the more consistent but less powerful 2-piece Pale Flame, 2-piece Bloodstained, or 2-piece Pale Flame, 2-piece Gladiator sets. These don't require you to maintain stacks for the set, but won't give you as high a peak in damage potential. If you want to get creative, you can even run a 4-piece Thundering Fury Cryo build on her with the appropriate team composition, for example Chongyun and Fischl. But this won't be very strong. It's just a fun idea I'd like to try sometime when I get bored. Most Eulas will run attack percentage Sands, physical percentage Goblet, and a critical hat. Substat priority will generally be crit over ER over attack. You might have noticed my ER Sands. I really wish it was an attack Sands instead, to be honest. For weapons, all of the 5-star weapons work well on Eula, though the Skyward Pride falls behind the other 5-star claymores and even behind some of the 4-star weapons when their effects are procced. I linked the Eula master sheet created by the Eula Mains Discord below in the description for your use, and I highly recommend you go and check it out to see how the weapons you might have stack up against each other. Eula's lack of flexibility means that she is difficult to run in a non-damage slot on your team. Eula isn't as flexible as some other damage units like Ganyu or Fischl, who are characters who can be run as main damage, sub damage, or even as an elemental application support. She is, however, less selfish and more flexible than characters like Xiao or Razor, both of whom most people consider very selfish damage characters. And that's because of the bursty nature of her kit, which allows her to swap in, unload her entire kit's worth of damage, and then swap back out, making her a good sub DPS. On the other hand, her elemental application isn't the best, despite a low cooldown on her elemental skill, Ice Tide Vortex, and there are much better cryo appliers like Kea or Ganyu. In general, Eula benefits a lot from 2 specific mechanics when team building. Superconduct will help to increase her damage output by reducing enemy physical resistance. More damage? Sounds good. Characters I'd recommend to achieve this are Fischl and Beidou, who can apply Superconduct even while they're off the field. The second mechanic that benefits Eula considerably is the shield mechanic. This not only reduces the amount of damage she takes, but importantly, gives her resistance to interruption. And no interruption means more attacks. More attacks means more stacks for her burst, and that means more damage. There are two very good choices here. The first is Diona, and the second, my favorite character, Zhongli. Both characters bring a lot of utility outside of just their shield. An example team that takes advantage of both of these mechanics might be Eula, Zhongli, Fischl, and Beidou, or Eula, Diona, Fischl, and Beidou, which is a slightly more free-to-play friendly team. Finally, let's talk about playstyle. I said earlier that Eula is more challenging than other characters to play, and this is due to the setup rotation of her elemental burst, and also the skill descriptions, which can be hard to decipher, and honestly, it's like reading a short essay for each skill. With a little practice, her rotation becomes extremely easy, and soon you'll be able to do it in your sleep. The rotation for maximum damage with her burst active is E, Q, normal chain into hold E into normal chain. Using her Ascension passive to its full effect here, you actually generate maximum Grimheart stacks, which is 2, which are then expended on the hold E to reduce enemy resistance before the Glacial Illumination Sword explodes. In my opinion, Eula is an extremely fun and satisfying character to play, who fits well into a team built around her skill, Glacial Illumination. If you're in need of a physical damage character, you like burst playstyles, or you just like the way she looks, then I would pull for her. If Hot Tango Mama is your waifu, then pull for her. If you don't need another physical damage character, you want to use her as a cryo applier, or you don't like the Claymore playstyle, then I probably wouldn't be pulling for her if I were you. Damage characters are easily overshadowed by future releases, where utility characters like Zhongli, Bennett, and Venti are harder to power creep, and I personally wouldn't feel too bad skipping a damage character. For example, I skipped Ganyu and Hu Tao, in fact. Anyway, everyone, that's just my thoughts on Eula. Once again, I've included the links to the resources I mentioned below, and if you want to help support me in my online pursuits, you can check out my live stream over at Twitch or my social media in the description. As always, stay safe, take care, and take it easy.